Hare Krishna, everyone.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Okay. Yeah, nice to know. I'm audible properly.
Yes, Prabhuji. Loud and
Okay. Okay. So then let's begin today's session of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. I'm going to share the screen. Please let me know. Maybe if someone has capacity to record it on the computer, please go ahead. Okay. Okay. Just checking who joined. Okay. Maybe can I ask this time for Anu Mataji to read from verse 1 to maybe 45, if you can.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. The screen is dark, Prabhuji, at least for me.
The screen is dark.
It's visible, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Sri Prabhuji.
Okay. So Anu Mataji, can you read today? Or yeah, maybe someone else, Dev Prabhu, or
Yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna. I can read.
yeah, okay. So 29th chapter, verse 1 to 45.
1 to 45.
Yeah.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Chapter 29 talks between Narada and King Parichana Barhi. Text 1, King Parishana Bhari replied, "My dear Lord, we could not appreciate completely the purport of your allegorical story of King Puranjana. Actually, those who are perfect in spiritual knowledge can understand. But for us who are overly attached to fruitive activities to realize the purpose of your story is very difficult." The great sage Narada Muni continued, "You must understand that Puranjana, the living entity, transmigrates according to his own work into different types of bodies, which may be one-legged, two-legged, three-legged, four-legged, many-legged, or simply legless. Transmigrating into these various types of bodies, the living entity, as the so-called enjoyer, is known as Puranjana. The person I have described as unknown is Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Masters, and the eternal friend of living entity. Since the living entities cannot realize the Supreme Personality of Godhead by material names, activities, or qualities, he remains everlasting, unknown to the unconditioned soul. When the living entity wants to enjoy modes of material nature in their totality, he prefers out of many bodily forms to accept that body which has 9 gates, 2 hands, and 2 legs. Thus, he prefers to become a human being or demigod. The great sage Narada continued, "The word pramada mentioned in this regard refers to material intelligence or ignorance. It is to be understood as such. When one takes shelter of this kind of intelligence, he identifies himself with the material body, influenced by material consciousness of I and mine. He begins to enjoy and suffer through his senses. Thus, the living entity is entrapped. The 5 working senses and the 5 senses that acquire knowledge are all male friends of Puranjana. The living entity is assisted by the senses in acquiring knowledge and engaging activities. The engagements of the senses are known as girlfriends, and the serpent, which was described as having 5 heads. is the life air acting within the 5 circulatory processes. The 11th attendant, who is the commander of the others, is known as the mind. He is the leader of the senses, both in acquisition of knowledge and in performance of work. The Panchala kingdom is that atmosphere in which the 5 sense objects are enjoyed. Within the Panchala kingdom is the city of the body, which has 9 gates. The eyes, nostrils, and ears are pair of gates situated in one place. The mouth, genitals, and rectum are also different gates, being placed into a body. Having these 9 gates, the living entity acts eternally in the material world and enjoys sense objects like form and taste. 2 eyes, 2 nostrils, and a mouth, altogether 5, are situated in the front. The right ear is accepted as the southern gate, and the left ear is the northern gate. The 2 holes or 2 gates situated in the west are known as the rectum or genital organ. The 2 gates named Khadyota and Avirmukhi, which have been spoken of, are the 2 eyes side by side in one place. The town named Vibrajita should be understood as form. In this way, the 2 eyes are always engaged in seeing different kinds of forms. The 2 doors are named Nalini should be known as the 2 nostrils, and the city named Sorabha represents aroma. The companion spoken as Avadhuta in the sense of smell. The door called Mukhya is the mouth, and Vipana is the faculty of speech. Rasna is the sense of taste. The city is called Apana, represents engagement of the tongue in speech, and Bahudana is the variety of foodstuffs. The right ear is called gate of Pitru, and the left ear is called the gate of Devahu. Narada Muni continued, the city spoken of as Dakshina Panchala represent the scriptures meant for directing pravitti, the process of sense enjoyment in fruitive activities. The other city named as Uttara Panchala represents the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. The living entity receives different kind of knowledge by means of 2 ears, and some living entities are promoted to Pitraloka and some to Devaloka. All this made possible by the 2 ears. The city called Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri, the genital organ, is meant for sex, which is very pleasing to common men who are simply fools and rascals. The faculty procreation is called Durmada, and the rectum is called Niritti. When it is said that Puranjana goes Vaisasa, it is meant that he goes to hell. He is accompanied by Lobdhaka, which is the working sense in the rectum. Formerly, I have also spoken of 2 blind associates. The associates should be understood to be the hands and legs. Being helped by the hands and legs, the living entity performs all kinds of work and moves hitter and thither. The word Antahapura refers to the heart. The word Visushana, meaning going everywhere, indicates the mind. Within the mind, the living entity enjoys the effects of the modes of material nature. These effects sometimes cause illusion, sometimes satisfaction, and sometimes jubilation. Formerly, it was explained that Queen is one intelligence. While one is awake or asleep, that intelligence creates different situations, being influenced or contaminated intelligence. The living entity envisions something and simply imitates the action and reactions of his intelligence. Narada Muni continued, what I referred as the chariot was actuality the body. The senses are the horses that pull the chariot. As time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction, but in fact, they make no progress. Pious and impious activities are the two wheels of the chariot. The 3 modes of material nature are the chariot's flag. The 5 types of life air constitutes the living entity bondage, and the mind is considered to be the rope, intelligence is the chariot driver. The, the heart sitting in the place of the chariot, and the dualities of life, such as pleasure and pain, are not in place. The 7 elements of the coverings of the chariot and the working senses are the 5 external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers. Being engrossed in sense enjoyment, the living entity seated on the chariot hankers after fulfillment of his false desires and runs after sense enjoyment life after life. What was previously explained as Sandavega, powerful time, is covered by days and nights named Gandharvas and Gandharvis.
No, it's Chandavega.
Sorry, Prabhuji. What was previously explained as Chandavega, powerful time, is covered by days and nights named Gandharvas and Gandharvis. The body lifespan is gradually reduced by the passage of days and nights, which number is 360. What was described as Kalakanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age, but Yavaniswara, who is death, accepts Jara, old age, as his sister. The followers of Yavaniswara are called the soldiers of death, and they are known as the various types of disturbance that pertain to the body and mind. Prajvara represents the 2 types of fever, extreme heat and extreme cold, typhoid and pneumonia. The living entity lying down within the body is disturbed by many tribulations pertaining to providence, to other living entities, and to his own body and mind. Despite all kinds of tribulations, the living entity subjected to the necessities of the body, mind and sense, and suffering from various types of disease is carried away by many plants due to his lust to enjoy the world. Although transcendental of this material existence in the living entity, out of ignorance, accepts all these material miseries under pretext of false egoism, I and mine. In this way, he lives for 100. Prabhuji, if you. In this way, he lives for 100 years within this body. The living entity by nature has minute independence to choose his own good and or bad fortune. But when he forgets his supreme masters, the personality of Godhead, he gives himself up unto the modes of material nature. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body and for the interest of the body becomes attached to various activities. Sometimes he is under the influence of mode of ignorance, sometimes the mode of passion, and sometimes the mode of goodness. The living entity thus gets different types of bodies under the modes of material nature. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness act piously according to Vedic injunctions. Thus, they are elevated to the higher planetary systems where the demigods live. Those who are influenced by the mode of passion engaged in various types of productive activities in planetary systems where human beings live. Similarly, those influenced by the mode of darkness are subjected to various types of miseries and live in the animal kingdom. Covered by the mode of ignorance in material nature, the living entity is sometimes a male, sometimes a female, and sometimes a onuch, sometimes a human being, sometimes a demigod, sometimes a bird, an animal, and so on. In this way, he is wandering within the material world. His acceptance of different types of bodies is brought by his activities under the influence of the modes of nature. The living entity is exactly like a dog overcome with hunger, goes from door to door for some food. According to his destiny, he sometimes receives punishment and is driven out, and other times receives a little food to eat. Similarly, the living entity, being influenced by so many desires, wanders in different species of life according to destiny. Sometimes he is high, sometimes he is low, sometimes he goes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to hell, sometimes to middle planets, and so on. The living entities are trying to counteract different miserable conditions pertaining to providence, other living entities or the body and mind, still they must remain conditioned by the laws of nature despite all attempts to encounter these laws. A man may carry a burden on his head when he feels when he feels it to be heavy. He sometimes gives relief to his head, putting the burden on his shoulder. In this way, he tries to relieve himself of the burden. However, whatever process he devices to counteract the burden goes nothing more than put the same burden from one place to another. Narada continued, O you who are free from all sinful activity, no one can counteract the effects of fruitive activity simply by manufacturing a different activity devoid of Krishna consciousness. All such activities due to our own ignorance. When we have a troublesome dream, we cannot relive it with a troublesome hallucination. One can counteract a dream only by awaking. Similarly, our material existence is due to our ignorance and illusion. Unless we awaken to Krishna consciousness, we cannot be relieved of such dreams. For ultimate solution to all problems, we must awaken to Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we suffer because we see a tiger in a dream or a snake in a vision. But actually, there is neither a tiger nor a snake. Thus, we create some situation in a subtle form, suffer the consequences. The suffering cannot be mitigated unless we are awakened from our dream. The real interest of the living entity is to get out of nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative. Unless one renders devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva, one cannot possibly become completely detached from the material world, nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge. O best of kings, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and in hearing of Lord activities, very soon becomes the eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. My dear king, in the place where pure devotees live, following the rules and regulation and thus purely conscious and engaged with the great eagerness in hearing and chanting the glories of Supreme Personality of Godhead, in that place, if one gets chance to hear their constant flow of nectar, which is exactly like waves of rivers, one will forget the necessities of life, namely hunger and thirst, and become immune to all kind of fear, lamentation, and illusion. Because the conditioned soul is always disturbed by the bodily necessities such as hunger and thirst, he has very little time to cultivate attachment to hearing the nectarian words of Supreme Personality of Godhead. The most powerful Lord Brahma, the father of all progenitors, Lord Shiva, Manu, Daksha, and other rulers of humankind, the four saintly first-class brahmacharis headed by Sanaka and Sanatana, the great sages Marishi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrugu, Vasistha, and my humble self Narada are all stalwart Brahmins who can speak authoritatively on Vedic literature. We are powerful because of austerities, meditation, and education. Nonetheless, even after inquiring about the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whom we always see, we do not know perfectly about him. Despite the cultivation of Vedic knowledge, which is unlimited, and worship of different demigods by the symptoms of Vedic mantras, demigod worship does not help one to understand the Supreme Powerful Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, Dev Prabhu was very nice hearing to you. How did you find reading this part of the chapter?
Prabhuji, it was good. I was able to understand some, but I was reading in a flow, so I didn't like really took it to my mind. I was just like constantly reading it. I faced problems pronouncing some words. Yeah, but it
Yes,
was good.
fine. That's fine. Yeah, very nice. Okay, let's offer quick prayers and then begin. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupagatamahim Dadati Swapadantikam. Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namne Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschyata Desatarine Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopis Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanasute Devi Pranamami Haripriye. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Narayana Namaskritcham Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudhirayet. Ashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavata Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devakinandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So this chapter is very nice. In continuation to this episode of what we were discussing about Prachetas, King Prachina Parishat, Narad Muni, and this chapter is the talk between Prachina Parishat, the king, and Narad Muni. And the opening verse that is that Prachina Parishat is saying we couldn't completely understand the purport of your words due to our attachment to karma. But experts in spiritual knowledge can understand them. But yeah, for common man, King Prachina Parishat, who is quite attached to ritualistic ceremonies, who has everything that is needed at his disposal for performing such yajnas and yagas. So, and through that, he was able to counteract his sinful activities prescribed as per Vedic ways, called karma kanda. So, one who is occupied with all these activities, so it would be really challenging. So whatever Narad Muni has allegorically explained about, there is a person called Puranjan, king, and then there's Puranjani, the queen, which is material intelligence, and all these things. After hearing everything, finally Prachina Parishat is asking, "Hey, I couldn't understand. I couldn't understand the purport of your words." Of course, it's nice. Through that, one is honest and humble, to the point that he really didn't get it, and uh, then making the opportunity useful for him. He also was asking Narad Muni, Devarshi. So he asked, "I couldn't understand this." And in fact, that is very important. Why? Because we can hear to Ramayana, we can hear to Mahabharata, we can hear to many other nice stories that are in the Puranas. But if we do not understand the purport of it, then what is the use of it? Is the stories are only for entertainment? Of course, the stories are helping us to visualize better than reading only a kind of philosophical excerpts, right? So rather, if you talk about Upanishads, which are very, very crisp, only one who is already detached, one who is leading a life of renunciation, they may be able to understand that under the guidance. But the stories that we can come across in our lifetime should actually help us to give us some nice fragrant flowers and also very tasty fruits. When these come, then we can understand the beauty of these. Otherwise, what can happen is we may just, just imagine if someone has gone to a movie, to a cinema, and then has watched for 2.5 hours, 3 hours, or whatever is shown, and he's quite excited. Wow, what a nice graphics, what a nice sound, what a nice choreography, cinematography, that graphic, this graphic. So many things one can appreciate, and after coming out of the theater, he can give his all critics and reviews, whoever asks. And after he sleeps and gets up next day, he's again carried away with his own day-to-day business. Yeah, no one, he's not seeing that this story or this movie is actually something that is infested with a message. Rather, he would dilute that need of learning that, because he would say, anyway, it's not for me. It is a very general understanding. So the purpose of movie is for entertainment after all. Yeah. So that is what here Prachina Parishad is not just thinking, hey, Narad Muni, he has come to my home and he has gave a very nice story. In that story, he has told so many things. Wow. And but in the end, he is finding that somehow I didn't get it. And he is very, very honest, and he is asking Narad Muni. And Narad Muni is explaining. Narad Muni, he didn't say, hey, what is that? You are dull-headed. No, he didn't. Rather, he took the opportunity and he started once again telling the same, but in a very crisp and easy, and brought to the very important point of what one should do. Yeah. Of course, as we have spent few weeks discussing all these through the allegorical story of Narad Muni, we will also not go through that. Though Dev Prabhu, we have read this 40 plus verses. We will not go through each and everything which we might see. Okay, we have already read. Rather, we spend some time to the second half of your recitation, which is the essence. But I'll just go through a few points where here Narad Muni started. He said, you must understand that this Puranjan is none other than the living entity. We know that there is Jivatma and there is Paramatma. Jivatma is the one who is conditioned living entity, Jiva, who is none other than we are individuals. We are not this body, we are spirit soul. So Narad Muni is saying, hey, this one who is Puranjan, Puranjan, one who is engaged in the body, is Puranjan. He transmigrates to his, according to his own work in different types of bodies. And different types of bodies here are one-legged, two-legged, three-legged, and legless beings. Yeah. So, and in the Purport Prabhupada is saying, usually this Ekapada, one-legged, refers to ghosts. So for it is said that ghosts walk on one leg, and Dvipad means we know, and then Tripad, is coming from where that when we are growing old, when we become weak and we need external support, it is the third means through which one is taking support. And Chatuspad refers to the animals, and there is also Bahupad, like centipedes and other which have many legs, and there is also one without legs, which is serpents. So Puranjan indicates one who enjoys possessing different types of bodies. His mentality for enjoyment in the material world is accommodated by different types of bodies. So, and then this person who is I have described as Avigyata. Avigyata is none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Paramatma. So it is the Jivatma and the Paramatma, and they are eternal friends. Since the living entities cannot realize the Supreme Lord by material names, activities, or qualities, he remains everlastingly unknown to the conditioned soul. So because the Lord is transcendental, and whatever we know, whatever we can relate is all about material. So that's why we are not able to understand. So because the Supreme Lord is unknown to the conditioned soul, he is sometimes described in the Vedas as Nirakar, avigyata or avan manasa gochara. So in that way, one is not able to perceive to the material senses. Lord is also called akinchana. Akinchana means that one cannot know through this. Not akinchana, adhokshaja. Sorry, adhokshaja. Akshaja means we know the eyes. Adhokshaja means we cannot see with our mundane material eyes. So, but because we didn't see, it doesn't mean that doesn't exist. Our eyes cannot see the subtle air. It can't see the ether. So, but they do exist. So in this way, but when one is spiritually advanced, one can understand the name, form, pastimes, and paraphernalia of the Lord. And how is it possible? How can this possible? This is possible when one is spiritually advanced. How to become spiritually advanced? Krishna is telling in Bhagavad Gita, Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yashasmin tattvataha. So what kind of means one can attain understanding of the spiritual subject is bhakti, through the devotional process. Bhaktya mam abhijanati. So I am known only through bhakti. He's not saying about jnana, he's not telling about yoga. These are not the ways, but through the process of bhakti. Ordinary persons engaged in pious and impious activities cannot understand the form, name, and activities of the Lord. The devotee, however, can know the personality of Godhead in many respects. So, in that way, in that way, a devotee is qualified. How he is getting this qualification by by the grant of the Lord. Just like when we have studied our engineering or management courses, in the end we can't just say that okay, now I know everything. No, we have to give an exam. When we give an exam, then what is happening? We are qualified, okay, when we get good grade, and then the authority, the institution is giving us the qualification that we are so and so. So the Lord here, when we perform our activities which are akarmic in nature, which means they are not causing us either good or bad results, but when we engage ourselves in the service of the Lord, then through that we are getting the eligibility so that we can be blessed by the Lord to understand Him. Otherwise, without His grant, one cannot understand Him. In in Padma Puran, it is said that Ata Shri Krishna Namadi na bhaved grahyam indriyai sevan mukhe hi jihvadav swayam eva sprati ada. Sevan mukhe means by devotion, only by devotion. However, the Lord is revealing Himself. It is not that one is now becoming that, yes, I have now attained the power. Now I have attained the art or the skill to understand the Lord. No, even after that, with seven mukhe hi jihvadav, by engaging mm, mm, only with the senses, by engaging them in the service of the Lord, then what is happening? The Lord reveals Himself to His devotees, being pleased with them because of their transcendental loving service that they render. It is otherwise it is beyond our perception. It is not at all possible for our eyes to see, because the day Nimai Sachi Sutta Prabhu was mentioning, our eyes are imperfect. Yeah, how much are we able to see when there is no light in the room? Can we see our own self? We cannot see. That is the limitation. That is the condition of our senses. So, whereas of course, yeah. Anyway, so in this way, in this verse, the word kumbir, namabhir, va, kriya, gunai are especially significant because God, Krishna, has many names, activities, and qualities, although none of them are material. So despite the fact that all these names, activities, and pastimes are mentioned in the Shastras, what is happening and understood by the devotees, the karmis, fruit laborers, cannot understand them, nor can the jnanis, who can mentally speculate, understand them. How much is our ability to speculate on something? Very limited, because of so many, because of four imperfections we have. So because they cannot understand the actual name of the Supreme Lord, they take it for granted that any name can be accepted. That's why there was this where someone said, hey, what is so special about Tulsi? Even if one just is having a eggplant tree at home, it gives the same result. So one doesn't know the greatness of Bhakti Devi because she is the means through which we can be blessed with bhakti. But one just mm, dilutes the importance or doesn't care the importance of it. They believe that since the absolute truth is impersonal, they can call him by any name because there is no form, there is no name, which means any name can fit. Otherwise, they maintain he has no name. This is not a fact. Here it is clearly stated, Namabhirva Kriya Gunai. The Lord has specific names such as Ram, Krishna, Govinda, Narayana, Vishnu, Adokshaja. There are indeed many names, but the conditioned soul cannot understand them. And then when the living entity wants to enjoy the material world in their totality, he prefers out of many bodily forms to accept the body which has 9 gates, 2 hands and 2 legs. Thus, he prefers to become a human being. So this is what is explained. And it goes, I mean, Prabhupada is helping out with giving more info on the subject matter that Narad Muni has already explained to Prachina Parishad before. And he's saying these 9 gates, in that especially, although one may be born in a family of Aryan, where there are restrictions against meat eating, intoxication, gambling, and illicit sex, still one may want to enjoy these forbidden things. This is always there is always someone who wants to go to a prostitute for illicit sex, to a hotel to eat meat and drink wine, or to a gambling club to enjoy so-called sports. All these propensities are already within the heart of the living entity. Loka vyavasyas mean madhya seva nityahi gantur. But some living entities stop to enjoy these abominable activities and consequently fall down to a degraded platform. So what is happening? Instead of restrictions, which are favorable, people think, what kind of restrictions? People immediately say, hey, in which century are we? In this century also, you are all foolish. You are all having these superstitions. You are all backward, outdated. All these things you should be yeah, following the trend. And what is the trend? To become more and more materially conditioned. So this process of transmigration and evolution is happening. So the more one desires a degraded life within his heart, the more he falls down to occupy different forms of abominable existence. A particular type of animal may have a strong tendency to enjoy one kind of sense enjoyment, but in the human form, one can enjoy all the senses. We may see, yeah, there is this 5 classic examples where the deer is enjoying through its ears, and the elephant is enjoying through its sense of touch, the skin, whereas the fish is enjoying through the senses of tongue. And what is the 2 more? Yeah, what do you call this? Moth. Moth enjoys through eyes. It is seeing through eyes the sun, and it goes more and more close to it, and then it burns its own wings, not realizing how it got yeah. And then finally about what is this? 5th one is the Kuranga, Matanga, Brunga. Yeah, the bee, bumblebee. The bumblebee is drinking the nectar, and yeah, the fragrance of the flowers is so attractive. It goes there and just sits there and thinks, hey, why is there so urgency to go away now? Let me enjoy a nap. It might sleep, and the next day morning, yeah, it gets caught up in this flower, which gets closed over the night, and due to suffocation, it can't come out. So anyway, so these are kind of bewilderments, and of course, depending on one what he want to enjoy, he can get a different body, and this is what is the consequences of it. Unless one is properly trained he becomes a victim of the modes of material nature. Prakritiya kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. He is thinking that I am the doer, I am the doer, and as long as we are thinking I am the doer, I am doing this, can enjoy this. Such a soul is called. Krishna is saying he is a bewildered spirit soul. He is just bewildered. He is thinking he knows everything, but he is not. Under the influence of three modes of material nature, thinks himself the doer of activities that are actuality carried out by nature. It is the Prakriti. As soon as one desires to enjoy his senses, he puts himself under the control of material energy, and automatically or mechanically, he is placed into the cycle of birth and death in various forms of life. And then Narad Muni is saying, there is this Pramadam, the young woman. Who is that? Puranjani. Puranjani, Narad Muni is saying she is coming with her girlfriends. And then the Jiva, the Puranjan, is becoming agitated. And the word is Pramada. Pramada mentioned in this regard refers to material intelligence or ignorance. So what is happening is that this covering of intelligence based on matter uh, is uh, is covering the consciousness. It is to be understood as such. When one takes shelter of this kind of intelligence, he identifies himself with the material body. So it is this pramada which can cause us pramada. Pramada means danger. Pramada here we see is yes. This material intelligence or ignorance. So one has to understand that this is the cause of our suffering. Why? Because after that, until then, we know no problem. There is no false ego. When the intelligence is affected, then the real self is not seen, but seen through false ego, the mind, and all this gets, and then we start thinking in the material consciousness of I, mine, and begins to enjoy and suffer through the senses. And thus the living entity is entrapped. Tesham satatayuktanam bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te means that but one who is Tesham satatayuktanam, one who is engaging himself in the service of the Lord, to those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. So this Dadami Buddhi Yogam Tam is very important. Buddhi, the real intelligence. Currently, when this Puranjani in the form, when she is coming, we are so much entrapped and captivated. Yeah. I should try it. After all, I'm not drinking. It is someone is offering me, and that's okay. So what is happening when the sense of this okay is coming? Yeah, that is this intelligence which is covered, which is the material intelligence. And because of material intelligence, we are going more bahirmukhe towards Paramatma. We are not having any more a dialogue with the Paramatma. Rather, we are turning ourselves back and busy with so many other things. But Krishna is saying, but to them who are constantly devoted and worship me, to them I am giving understanding by which they can come to me. So that is real intelligence. So the Lord, as Paramatma, He is ready to give us the real intelligence. But because of Pramada, what happening is we are entering into the dangers of life, and then we get into this janasya mohoyam aham mameti, and this is what sense moha, illusion. What is the illusion? That I am this, I am that, this is mine, that is mine. This sense of everything claiming is called illusion. Nothing belongs to the living entity, but he claims that everything belongs to him. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommends that this false intelligence be purified by process of Cheto Darpana Marjanam by engaging in japa. We all are struggling to do proper japa. Why? Because we don't know the power of it. When we know the power of japa, then we become serious. Because for us, we are just thinking these are some names. And what is so great? Maybe if some priest is very, very nicely pronouncing all the Purusha Sukta, Sri Sukta, and he is reciting from the Atharva, Yajurveda or Samaveda, and then we think, wow, what a nice, oh, it sounded so nice, spiritually vibrating, and we think that is so nice. Neither we understand a bit or not here. But when it comes to japa, we think, hey, Rama is a name, Krishna is a name. Rama means all pleasure-giving potency, and Krishna is all attractive. All these things, even though we know, we are not taking it serious. But here, yeah, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, we should start somewhere. Yeah, we want to come out of this illusion. We want to have our intelligence refined and purified. How to do that? There is also this science, the formula given. Cheto darpana marjanam bhavamaha davagni nirvapanam. Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vidya vadhu jivanam. Anandam buddhi vartanam. We all want that happiness which is overflowing. Pratipadam purnamrita aspadanam. So, what is the way? Kirtanam. Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. When we are engaging ourselves in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord, when that dances on the tongue, then what is happening is that, yeah, it really goes more deeper and cleanses our heart. This means that when a person comes to the platform of Krishna consciousness, his real intelligence acts. At that time, he knows that everything belongs to Krishna and nothing belongs to him. There is no more this mohoyam. We know what is that? Because of mohoyam aham mameti. Mamayeti means I am the doer. That feeling is gone. Mamayeti means also that mamata, uh, a sense of self-pampering. That is mine, it is me, it is, so all these things are gone. And that is why it's very important one takes to this process. And then what is that? Narada Muni is further saying, there is this Puranjani is the material intelligence, and then he's saying there are material friends who are the instruments for what? For enjoying the material world. They are these 10 senses, Gyanendriyas and Karmendriyas. And then there is this female friend who is the actions of the senses, tasting, hearing, smelling, etc. Then the serpent with 5 hoods, 5 heads is the 5 vital airs. So these things, and then the 11 attendants, where the mind is the leader. So all this is said. The 11th attendant, who is the commander of others, is known as the mind. He is the leader of senses, both in the acquisition of knowledge. That's why it's very, very much significant, and in the performance of work. And then there is the Panchala king. Panchala kingdom is that atmosphere in which the 5 sense objects are enjoyed. So we have this sphere, we have the space. The mind is the center of all activities. The mind can take us to any place within no time. For us, we don't need a ticket, right? We can simply go from here to the other end of the world. Just if we close our eyes and can just bring those memories, if we were already there, or if we just whatever we have seen or whatever we can speculate, we can already be there. So that's why it said Brihad Bala, very powerful. And to get out of the clutches of Maya, one has to control his mind, which means that which is very powerful, how can we fight against it? According to training, the mind is the friend and the enemy of the living entity. If one gets a good manager, his estate is very nicely managed. But if the manager is a thief, his estate is spoiled. Similarly, in his material conditional existence, the living entity gives power of attorney to his mind. That is what is happening. So Ambarish Maharaj, therefore, first engaged his mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord. Save manah Krishna padara vindayo. When the mind is engaged in the meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord, the senses are controlled. Rather, what we are doing, we are letting it free because the mind is saying, okay, after all, you deserve this. After all, you have working Monday to Friday, or sometimes also on weekend. You deserve some break. Yeah, you deserve some break. And then the mind is putting us in a break, as if like we have not taken a break at all. We are taking break every day. Yeah, we get onto our bed and we are taking break, or we get onto phone, we are taking break, we are taking so many breaks, but still that is not enough because mind demands more and more, more as if like you want to be freestyle. No one should tell anything, no one should cause me any problem. That is the expectation of mind. Hmm? So such a mind which is so powerful, processor, how can we overcome? Savai Manah Krishna Padara Vindayor. By engaging our mind in the service of the Lord, by in His service, then one can overcome this. This system of control is called Yama. This means subduing the senses. One who can subdue the senses is called Goswami, but one who cannot control the mind is called Godas. The mind directs the activities of senses which are expressed through different outlets as described in the next verse. Then there is eyes, nose, ears, a pair of gates are the pairs of gates situated in one place, right? I think we went through all these things in the last chapters. The mouth, genital, and rectum are different gates. Being placed into a body having these 9 gates, the living entity acts externally in the material world and enjoys sense objects like form and taste. Hmm. And this goes further. So where we have missed is we have not um, mm, turned to the real intelligence. Rather, we have um, got captivated by the yeah, less intelligent or the material intelligence, and that's why we are using our mind, which can be a perfect ruler to control the senses, but rather we are letting them loose. So, and then there is whole description about the chariot and the body, and there is east and west and all these things. Narad Muni is once again bringing it up. The two gates named Kadyota and Avirmukhi, which have been spoken of, are the two eyes side by side in one place. The town named Vibhrajita should be understood as form. These are further details. And then there is this, the two doors named Nalini and Nalini are the two nostrils. Then the companion spoken of as Avadhuta is the sense of smell. And Prabhupada writes in the purport, the word Avadhuta means most free. A person is not under the rules and regulations of any injunction when he has attained the stage of Avadhuta. Sometimes we ask, hey, what is this level of a particular guru? Is he a Paramahamsa? Is he Avadhuta? Is he Acharya? All these things, right? So Avadhuta means one is most free. A person is not under the rules and regulations of any injunctions when he has attained the stage of Avadhuta. This is coming from, we can see in the 5th canto, Rishabhdev, a perfect Avadhuta. In other words, he can act as he likes. This Avadhuta stage is exactly like air, which does not care for any obstructions. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is himself saying, Chanchalam hi manaha Krishna pramati balavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayor iva sudakshar sudushkaram, very difficult. The mind is restless, turbulent and obstinate and very strong, O Krishna, and to subdue it seems to me more difficult than controlling the wind. So, and then it goes further, the city, he says, and then he's saying, Pravrittam cha nivrittam cha shastram panchalam samritam pitrayanam devayanam shrotach shruta dharad vrajet. So, Narad Muni is saying there are this Dakshina Panchal and Uttara Panchal, and these are to be representatives. They represent the scriptures. There are scriptures which are telling how one can engage in the process of sense enjoyment in fruitive activities. The other one is represent the scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities and increasing knowledge. Which means if one is a very, very common man or even below the common man, which means one who is not having the sharpness, intelligence, then what he takes to is he can only understand how to enjoy. But Shastras are giving information how to be responsibly enjoying. Just like if one wants to maintain a healthy life, what he has to do is he has to follow the Ayurveda process of how to eat, when not to eat, what is good for him, and all these things. He can enjoy. It's not that he is restricting at the same time. And then there is also one who is leading an austerous life. He thinks, hey, after all, why should I maintain this body? The purpose of the body is mainly to go more and more closer to the Lord, so that one day I can give up this material body. So there is also knowledge about that. So that is what is Uttara Panchala represents scriptures meant for decreasing fruitive activities. Means eating only once, following what is it? Ekadashi Vratas, taking more austerities on the festivals. So there is whole nectar of devotion which is giving all the guidelines of how to lead a life, a devotional life. The living entity receives different kinds of knowledge by means of what? 2 years. And some living entities are promoted to Pitralok and some to Devalok. All this is made possible by the 2 years. So the importance of years is very much highlighted here. Uh, um, the Vedas are known as Shruti. The Vedas are known as Shruti, and the knowledge received from them through oral reception is called Shrutidhara. So one is getting that. And as stated in Bhagavad Gita, one can be promoted to planet of demigods, to devatas, to Pitraloka, and also to Vaikuntha planet, simply through the process of hearing. These things have already been explained in the previous chapters. Prabhupada is not going in further detail because one can gain this understanding by going through the previous 4 chapters. And then comes Asuri Medram Arvag Dwar, the city of Gramaka, which is approached through the lower gate of Asuri. What is this? Genital organ is meant for sex, which is very pleasing to common men who are simply fools and rascals. The faculty of procreation is called Durmada and the rectum is called Niriti. So, and Prabhupada brings a very important point in the purport. Yeah. So maybe from the translation we can see that about this genital and rectum, how they can also condition a person. And Prabhupada mentions that when the world becomes degraded, civilization becomes demonic, asuri. And for the common man, the rectum and genitals are taken very seriously as the center of all activity. And what it goes further, even in such a sacred places like Vrindavan, unintelligent men pass off this rectal and genital business as spiritual activity. Such people are called sahajiya. Sahajiyas, yeah. According to their philosophy, through sexual indulgence, one can elevate oneself to the spiritual platform. Yeah, there is so much script. I mean, one can bring anything. They can read anything and they can think and concoct it and favor it for his own desires. So one may say, hey, okay, one can attain highest spiritual platform because it is about the love, it is about the union, and it is about this yoga one can attain. That people might say, I don't know, in case you have come across, there is this uh, Kama Shastra or something. Where it is about Lord Shiva and Parvati, and the purpose of that scripture is one, but one can say, hey, okay, one want to enjoy, and then they can use this and not use, but actually misuse this, what Nandishwar has spoken, the conjugal love between the divine couple, and they can say, okay, this is what they can bring up such high philosophy, such high means to elevate oneself for mere sense gratification. And that can happen. Oh, why not? When it is such a religious, when it is such a divine thing, it can also happen in the spiritual, holy places. And this is what Sahajas, according to their philosophy, their through sexual indulgence, one can elevate oneself to the spiritual platform. And what happens for those kind of people? For this reason, Vrindavan is no longer visited by intelligent men. We are often asked why we have made our center in Vrindavan. From the external point of view, it can be concluded that Vrindavan has become degenerate due to Sahajiya activity. Yet from spiritual point of view, Vrindavan is the only place where all these sinful persons can be rectified by means of taking birth in the form of dogs, hogs, and monkeys. By living in Vrindavan as dog, hog, or monkey, the living entity can be elevated to spiritual platform in the next life. So either or the other, even if one is too much attached, but if he is living in Vrindavan, then he gets a chance to become a dog, hog, or something. If one is elevated, intelligent, if he can practice, if he can make use of his uh, opportunity as a human to practice bhakti, then he can also get elevated. So in either or the other way, Prabhupada is mentioning, yeah, that one should not become a sahajiya, but even if those people, at least in the next life, they can still get a suitable body, but in Vrindavan, and gradually can spiritually advance. When it is said that Puranjan goes to Vaisasa, it means that he goes to hell. How much time? Yeah, we have. So, and then it goes, the word Antahpura refers to the heart. The heart feels satisfaction, jubilation, or illusion according to the effects of modes of material nature. Actually, the living entity in his material condition remains inert. In the mode of material nature that acts on the mind and heart, which is causing the problem. The results are enjoyed or suffered by living entity. So what is happening is because of the feelings of the heart. These feelings are coming because of the influence of material nature. And the living entity in his material condition remains inert. So what is happening? It is the modes of material nature that act on the mind and heart. Because the mind and heart are affected, then the whole thing, he gets into business. Prakriti kriyamanani gunakarmani sarvasa ahankara vimudatma kartaham iti manyate. Then he starts thinking that I am the doer, let me do it. So there is also further, there is this chariot body analogy. If you remember, there is this chariot. Yeah, what I refer to as chariot was in actuality the body, the senses are the horses that pull that chariot. As time passes, year after year, these horses run without obstruction, but in fact, they make no progress. So we are thinking that senses are making us matured, advanced. No, there is no progress. Pious and impious activities are the two wheels of the chariot. The three modes of material nature are the chariot's flags. The five types of life air constitute the living entity's bondage, and the mind is considered to be the rope. Intelligence is the chariot driver. The heart is the sitting place in the chariot, and the duality of life, such as pleasure and pain, are knotting place. The horse chariot where you tie it. The seven elements are coverings of chariot, and the working senses are the five external processes. The 11 senses are the soldiers being engrossed in sense enjoyment. The living entity seated on the chariot hankers after fulfillment of his false desires and run after enjoyment life after life. So in this way, what is happening? A person is affected, and what is he going? He's going through all this cycle, and then in the end, what is the benefit? Is he getting something? It is that the Chandaveg is going to attack the city. It is not that we can think now I have created my wonderful estate. After all, I worked all the years. I have now bought an estate and I can sit happily, peacefully, no disturbances, whatever. Chandaveg is there. It's not going to stop. It's not saying, okay, you are now qualified yourself to enjoy. No, the time is running. And what is happening? Samvatsara, Chandavega, Kalo, Yenopalakshita. So what is happening is um, powerful time is covered by days and nights named Gandharvas, Gandharvis. The body's lifespan is gradually reduced by the passage of days and nights. So in that way, what is happening? Time is not staying. Kala Kanya Jara Sakshal. So Lokastam Nabhi Nandati Swasaram Grahe Mrityu Kshayaya Yavaneshwaram. So then the Yavaneshwar comes into picture, and not only Yavaneshwar, he is first already sending his soldiers. I think that comes next. When what was described as Kalakanya should be understood as old age. No one wants to accept old age, but Yavaneshwar, who is death, accept Jara as his sister. So this Kalakanya is coming before the Yavaneshwar is going to come and take away. Before going to the place of Yamaraj, the living entity accepts Jara, old age, the sister of Yamaraj. One is subjected to the influence of Yavanraj and his sister due to impious activity. Those who are in Krishna consciousness and are engaged in devotional service under the instructions of Narad Muni. What is that? Under the instructions of Narad Muni means Narada Pancharatra Vidhi, and all the teachings that he has given in different ways, in different places, are not subject to the influence of Yamaraj and his sister Jara. If one is Krishna conscious, he conquers death. After leaving the material body, he does not accept another body that is material, but returns home back to Godhead. This is verified in Bhagavad Gita. So through that, it is said. And then what is happening? The followers of Yamaraj, who are they? They are the soldiers. They are known as various types of disturbances that pertain to the body and mind. There are different kinds of problems we get. One health issue, one adi daivika issues, adi bhautika issues, adi kleshas, all these kleshas that are coming. Not only this, the anarthas, these are also are causing this. And then there is this prajvara, two types of prajvara. One is typhoid, one is pneumonia, health issues. The living entity lying down within the body is disturbed by many tribulations pertaining to providence. This is Adi Daivika, to other living entities and to his own body and mind. Despite all kinds of tribulations, the living entity subjected to the necessities of the body, mind, and senses and suffering from various types of disease is carried away by many plans due to his lust to enjoy the world. Although transcendental to this material existence, the living entity out of ignorance accepts all these material miseries under the pretext of false egoism. What is it? I and mine. In this way, he lives for 100 years within this body. So, in that way, he is conditioned. And now Narad Muni is giving instructions. Yadatmanam avijnaya bhagavantam param gurum purushastu visajjeta guneshu prakriti swadrak Gunabhimani satada karmani purute avasha shuklam krishnam lohitam va yata karma bijayate. The living entity by nature has minute independence. This is very important. The other day I was talking to one of our devotees in the temple. He was asking, I accept everything as Krishna doing. But then the question is coming, if the thief is stealing, is it Krishna who is doing? Or if we take it, no, it's all we have created everything, then what is the role of the Lord? Yeah, this is a question. Yeah. Is it that end or this end? Yeah, here we can see in this, the living entity by nature, which means he's having the free will, minute independence to choose his own good or bad fortune. But when he forgets his supreme master, he gives himself unto the modes of material nature. So when we have this minute independence, what we are doing is we want to enjoy independently. For that reason, we have chosen an option, and the consequences is that we get into the cycle of birth and death. Being influenced by the modes of material nature, he identifies himself with the body, and that is the consequence. Either you can be still in the spiritual consciousness that I am not this body. I am the spiritual being, actually, I am and servant of the Supreme Master. Rather, if I selected the other one, then we end up in this. So he identifies himself with the body, and for the interest of the body becomes attached to various activities. Sometimes he is under the influence of mode of goodness, sometimes mode of passion, sometimes mode of goodness. The living entity thus gets different types of bodies under the modes of material nature. Krishna is also saying in Bhagavad Gita, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunte Prakriti Jan Gunan Karanam Guna Sangosya. It is because of the Guna association of the Trigunas, Asya Sad Asad Yoni Janmasu. And he is going through this, from one body to other body. Thus he meets with good, which is Sad, and Asad, evil, among various species. So this is what it happens. It is when we have misused our minute independence. That independence was there, but we didn't use it. We had our desires. We didn't have the desire to serve the Lord. We had desire to serve, self-service. Isn't it? So nice. No, I can do on myself. I can take whatever I want. Good. So that causes to imagine this is to continue one's bondage in the material existence. Sukla Prakasha Bhuistal Lokan Apnoti Karhichit Dukha Krodarkan Kriyayasam Tamah Sokat Karan Kvachit. Those who are situated in the mode of goodness act piously according to Vedic injunctions. Thus, they are elevated to higher planets, planetary system where the demigods live. Those who are influenced by the modes of passion engage in various types of productive activities in the planetary system where human beings live. Similarly, those influenced by the mode of darkness are subjected to various types of misery and live in the animal kingdom. So in this way, there are this Brahmaloka, Tapoloka, Janaloka, Maharloka. These are the upper planets. And then there is Bhuvar Loka. These are the planets mode of passion. And then there is mode of ignorance planets Atala, Vita, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, Rasatala, Patala. These are animal kingdoms, which means there is more gross in conditioning. So based on what kind of activities that we do, accordingly we are placed in those. And in this way, different bodies, the jiva get different types of bodies under the influence of modes while wandering in sansar, male, female, yanak, human being, demigod, animals, etc. So, and finally now, Narad Muni is saying, why did he get this? There is also, right, Puranjan became Puranjani, right? Why? The living entity is exactly like a dog who, overcome with hunger, goes from door to door for some food. According to his destiny, he sometimes receives punishment and is driven out, and at other times receives a little food to eat. Similarly, this is what Narad Muni is saying, the living entity being influenced by so many desires wanders in different species of life according to destiny. Sometimes he is high, sometimes he is low, sometimes he goes to heavenly planets, sometimes to hell, sometimes to middle planets, and so on. And there is this Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, therefore sang Vaishnava Thakur Tomara Kukura Baliya Jahanaha More. In this way, Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers to become a Vaishnava's dog. A dog always keeps himself at his master's door and does not allow any person unfavorable to the master to enter. Similarly, one should engage in the service of a Vaishnava and try to please him in every respect. Unless one does so, he does not make spiritual advancement. Apart from spiritual advancement in the material world, if one does not develop his qualities in goodness, he cannot be promoted to the higher planetary systems. So, it is the activities that determine our future. It is when we engage ourselves in right activities, then we get right results. And then otherwise what happens? All other activities, whatever we do, is just futile. The living entities are trying to counteract different miserable conditions pertaining to providence. Other living entities are body and mind. So all these are miserable conditions we are facing, either with others or with our own self. Still, they must remain conditioned by the laws of nature, despite all attempts to counter these laws. Just as a dog wanders here and there for a piece of bread or punishment, the living entity perpetually wanders about trying to be happy and planning in so many ways to counteract his miserable conditions, material miseries. This is called struggle for existence. We can actually see in our daily life how we are forced to make plans to drive away miserable conditions. To get rid of one miserable condition, we have to put ourselves in another kind of miserable condition. A poor man suffers for want of money, but if he wants to become rich, he has to struggle in so many ways. Actually, that is not a valid counteracting process, but a snare of illusory energy. If one does not endeavor to counteract his situation, but is satisfied with his position, knowing that he has obtained his position through past activities, he can instead engage his energy in develop Krishna consciousness. So if one is not doing this, what is happening is that he is just misusing the opportunity. We are misusing our opportunity when we don't take action, when we don't really think, oh, I should change my life now. Otherwise, I am going to suffer. It is me, I am going to fail. So, yatahi purusho bharam. Here, this is very nice example, that analogy that is often given. Yatahi purusho bharam shirasa guru udvahan tam skandena sa adhatte tatha sarva pratikriya. A man may carry a burden on his head, and when he feels it to be too heavy, he sometimes gives relief to his head by putting the burden on his shoulder. In this way, he tries to relieve himself of the burden. However, whatever process he devises to counteract the burden does nothing more than put the same burden from one place to the other. Yeah. So this is what we are trying. We are mitigating. No, I can't solve it forever. Let me mitigate it. Let me find a way, and rather we are taking the permanent solution, we are taking a temporary solution and causing us more and more anxiety. And Narad Muni is suggesting what is the way out. Hmm? He's saying na ekanta pratikara karmanam karma kevalam dvayam hi avidyopashritam swapne swapna avanaga. Oh, you who are free from all sinful activity, no one can counteract the effects of fruitive activity simply by manufacturing different activity devoid of Krishna consciousness. All such activity is due to ignorance. We are thinking, let me go from this planet to another planet which is better. We are trying. Yeah. We find some traces of some spiders. We try to see some traces from water, and we start thinking, hey, spiders are there, living beings. Water is there, we can live. And then we think that is a better place. Uh, when we have a troublesome dream, example, we cannot relieve it with a troublesome hallucination, right? In a dream, what are we doing? Oh, there is uh, some what do you call? A thief is robbing. What can you do? You can play, hey, no, let me change the cassette. Let me change the CD. Let me watch a different dream. No, we just come out of the dream. One can counteract a dream only by awaking. Similarly, our material existence is due to our ignorance and illusion. Unless we awaken to Krishna consciousness, we cannot be relieved of such dreams. For the ultimate solution to all problems, we must awaken to Krishna consciousness. There is also further in the purport, but the way out is mentioned. Samstrir na nivartate manasa linga rupena swapne vicharato yatha. Is saying, sometimes we suffer because we see a tiger in a dream or snake in a vision, but actually there is neither a tiger nor a snake. Thus, we create some situation in subtle form and suffer the consequence. So, Lord doesn't create these problems; we create because of our own concoction. And it goes further with this. The only remedy is this is what actually is very important for us. Next few minutes. We now understood what kind of life we are leading, what kind of suffering we are creating. How to avoid that is yathatmanortha bhutasya yato narta parampara samsrir tad vyavachchedo bhaktya paramaya gurau वासुदेवे भगवती भक्ति योगो समाहिता सदृचिनेन वैराग्यम ज्ञानम च जनयिष्यति. The real interest of living entity is to get out of this nescience that causes him to endure repeated birth and death. The only remedy is to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his representative, Guru. Unless one renders the devotional service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, one cannot possibly become completely detached from this material world, nor can he possibly manifest real knowledge. Hmm. This is Narad Muni is telling to Pranishchina Parijat, hey, how long do you want to go into this? Are you not tired? This is the way. He is saying the way is to become detached from all artificial material condition. The only remedy is to take to Krishna consciousness and constantly engage in the devotional service of the Lord. Everyone is trying to be happy, and the process adopted to achieve that happiness is called self-interest. Unfortunately, the conditioned soul hovering within this material world does not know that his ultimate goal of self-interest is Vasudev. Everyone is trying. I think I can be happy by this. I can be happy by that. I think. And all are interested for his own self. Isn't it? We are not really. But how can one attain that? Is by understanding devotional process is the means. Unfortunately, the conditioned soul is not thinking that self-interest lies in serving Vasudev. Samsriti or material existence begins with illusioned bodily conception of life, and on the basis of this conception, there endures a series of unwanted things, anarthas. And this is what these unwanted things are actually mental desires for various types of sense gratification. So Narad Muni is saying Pancharatra as the Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam. Uh, Paratvena Nirmalam. Unless one purifies his mind, there is no question of getting free from material condition. Hmm. In Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, there is a very nice verse. What is that? Anarthopasanam sakshat bhakti yogam adhokshaje lokasya janato vidvams chakre satvata samhitam. The material miseries of living entity, which are superficial to him, can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva has compiled this Vedic literature, which in relation to the supreme truth, which is so Srimad Bhagavatam came for whom? For us. Why? Because we are still struggling to understand where to connect. Yoga means to connect, but what kind of yoga we are doing? We are kind of connecting ourselves to the material things for our own pleasures and getting more and more entangled. So, and that is what is called anartha. Unwanted things come down from one bodily life to another. Uh, to get out of this entanglement, one has to take to the devotional process of Lord Vasudeva. The word guru is significant in this connection. The word guru may be translated as heavy or supreme. In other words, the guru is a spiritual master. Sri Rishabdev advised his sons, Guru Nasa Syat. Anyway, so that is further detail. So bhakti refers to those activities performed in the service of Lord Vasudeva. In this regard, it is very clear. Narad Muni is emphasizing that bhakti to whom? To Vasudeva. Because Lord Vasudeva is supreme, one should engage oneself in service in his service, not in the service of demigods. Devotional service begins from the neophyte stage, the stage of observing the rules and regulations, and extend to the point of spontaneous loving service to the Lord. The purpose of all stages is to satisfy Vasudeva. When one is perfectly advanced in devotional service of Vasudeva, one becomes completely detached from the service of the body, and that is his designated position in the material existence. So in that way, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Jivera Swarupa hai, Krishnera Nityadas. So when we have self-interest is what? That we understand our own position. Krishnera Nityadas, I am servant of the Lord. As soon as one engages in the service of Lord Vasudeva, he attains his normal constitutional position. And what is that happening? Then muktir, hitvan yatha rupam swarupena vyavastitihi. In the liberated stage, one is situated in his original Krishna consciousness position. He gives all engagements in the service of matter. And then finally, in the second chapter of the first canto. There is a very nice verse. Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Janayati Asu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yad Ahetuki Ahetukam. Yeah. So one can get this by rendering devotional service, immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So the Lord is going to give that. Thus, one must engage in devotional service without material desires. And here, Narad Muni is saying, one who is faithful, who is always hearing the glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always engaged in the culture of Krishna consciousness and is hearing of Lord's activities, very soon becomes eligible to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Actually, I'll stop here because from 38 to 45 also there are nice verses, which I don't want to just rush in hurry. Sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Any questions or anything anyone want to add, share? So, no questions. Anything, any realizations from our own life? Any wake-up calls?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I think the analogy of that Puranjani and the entire chapter was very nice, Prabhuji. Yeah. I think Narada Muni, I think the lot of disjointed philosophies that we have heard in many stories. For example, Ajamil, etc., etc. A lot of things are encapsulated beautifully in this
Message. Yeah.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Very nice. Yeah. Dev Prabhu, how is it after your reading and hearing to Prabhupada purports?
Prabhuji, I understood the explanation. It was much better. And side by side, I opened the verses on the website as well. So I was like able to really understand what was written. But still, I had one question. It it might be strange, like, okay, uh, whatever actions we are doing, we are performing our daily work. So if we are not doers, so what we are? I mean, we are doing the action, so we should be the doer, right? Like in terminology, I understand, like, okay, we are just following the instructions, or like there is a higher governance body, but you know,
Yeah. So what you're saying, is it that I'm not doing or doing? Is that the question?
yeah, like if I'm doing the actions, or yeah.
Yeah. So can I ask the other question? Like, okay, if you have taken to some intoxication and you just went to on the street, and then because of intoxication you not able to see things as it is, and then you hit against maybe a bump or some kind of vehicle or something. So in this next day morning, what will you think? Did I do it or not? Right? When you come to your senses, what will you think? Hey, did I do it? All these things. Yeah.
It would be accidental, like I wasn't in my conscious state. My mind was wandering somewhere else and I bumped into a pole or something.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the question, I mean, why I brought this question is still there is this something that, okay, the mind can tell, or your intelligence might say, hey, I didn't do it. But yeah, in fact, it's you who are doing it. right? And the question is, are you doing or not doing? Are you doing or are you both? Yeah. So actually, it's an action that is performed, whether you are knowing it or not knowing it, you are doing it. Yeah. But then the thing is that here, when we are saying a doership, is thinking that I am doing it without any influence. So that's not the fact. It is inspired. We may desire, even if we have this piety or the karma fruit that we can do something, still it is the Lord who is hmm, granting it to happen hmm, for a good or a bad reason. Yeah. So due to which that though activity wise at action level you are performing it, yeah, it is that you have went out, you had walked in and you hit against something, you did it, yeah. But it is not just only that, it is still because of the other factors that are there due to which you have done it. And usually what happens is the one who is thinking that I am doing it, a thief may think that I am doing it, so he's suffering it. Or one may think that, oh, I'm not doing, and he thinks that I'm not suffering it. So, in the spirit of doing here, we are talking about activities. What kind of activities? If it is about the Lord, which we talk as devotional service, these are the service I'm doing on behalf or for the Lord, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhuji.
So, just like in your company, if you are working, then you're not independent anyway, right? It is that whatever your boss is saying, that's what you're doing it. So, which means you're a servant, and the result also goes to him. Hmm. So, are you doer in terms of activity? Yes, you are doing it, but on behalf of whom?
On behalf of the
Yeah.
conditions and circumstances.
On behalf of your boss. Yeah, if your boss has said it, you're doing it. And the Lord is saying that, okay, these are prescribed duties. And when we do it, then we are not doers. Because it is that we are just following someone, we are following higher authority. But
Yes.
then if we are not following that higher authority, then the Lord is saying, okay, now you are independently doing something, then you face the result. So you are having the sense of doership. And that doership is cause of your conditioning.
Yes,
Hmm?
Prabhuji.
So it is actually the spirit. It is not just a physical activity that we say as doing or not doing. Yeah, that anyway we are doing it, but on what? For what? Is it karma, akarma, vikarma? So these categories come into play based on what purpose are we working towards? Yeah, I don't know.
Mm, yes, Prabhuji, I understood what you're trying to explain.
Mhm.
But still, like, okay, then what if when someone is going on a wrong path? So
Mhm.
then he should consider it like as like, okay, I'm just like doer, like, okay, because of the circumstances I'm going on this path, or the other way around.
I Let's take the example of a thief. Yeah, so
Yes.
a thief, or not even thief, maybe a karmic worker who is really very very pakka, genuine, following the uh, guidelines of how to lead a very nice materialistic life. In either ways, what is he doing is that he's having his own special interest, self-interest, and he's doing for that. And then, as a consequence, yeah, because he's under the influence there of material energy that he's doing, so that's why he's also getting the result. And because of that, he's going to suffer or he's getting a body. So yeah. So in the sense there where we are seeing is that he is doing, or maybe I can try to explain that through a different point of view. If one is doing spiritual activities, then he's getting spiritual result, and one does material activity, then he's getting material result.
Mm.
And one who is doing spiritual activity, he is not doing material activity, so he's not a doer.
Hmm.
Hmm? You're getting?
Yeah, yes, Prabhuji. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
this way I understood better. There
Mm-hmm.
was this also one more story I heard in one of the lectures on YouTube. It was by Gauranga Das Prabhuji, and
Mm-hmm.
where he was, I don't remember the exact names from the story, but there were some Maharaji which they all went together for a camp or some kirtan or something, and there was this one more devotee who was a thief previously, but then he joined Krishna consciousness and he was trying to quit the those actions. And when they went for the camp and for the lecture, so at night they were sleeping in a common room and their bags were besides them. And because this thief had a habit of like stealing, so he didn't want it to, because he came for a spiritual path, for a spiritual journey. So he just like changed the positions of all the bags. Like, okay, he picked someone's bag from point A and he put it somewhere else. He put the bag from B to C. And in the morning, when everyone woke up, so they realized that their bags were not in the right place. And then he accepted and apologized. So in this case, what would you say? Like, who is the, like, he would be considered a spiritual doer or in the material doer?
Yeah, I think there is this conditioning that I am still having these habits, right? So these are the material habits. The mind is still under the influence. As long as we are in this, we can't say the activity is very divine activity, right?
Yeah.
It is not that okay. We are we are a via medium of the Lord to do this leela. No, it was actually my own conditioning.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Understood. Prabhuji. Yes.
yeah,
Hare Krishna.
yeah. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, then wish you a nice weekend. We'll catch up tomorrow, and we see us today already some in a home program. I don't know. Dev Prabhu, in case we have time, you can join in the afternoon.